Hey, Travel Brats! We love basing our episodes on places that you want to visit. So, if you'd like to request an episode on a specific destination, you can visit thetravelbrats.com and go to About Us, and then contact us to submit your request for an episode on an upcoming travel destination of yours.
Hey y'all.
I'm Soph.
And I'm Nat.
And we're
the Travel Brats. Welcome to our podcast.
We've been putting the brat in travel
Since 2020.
and we're just getting started.
From hidden gems to world-class travel.
We've been sharing hot and not destinations from a bird's eye view and a party of two.
So what's on the itinerary today?
Hey.
Happy Travel Brat Tuesday.
It's Soph
And Nat.
coming to you from the studio. And guys, today we are back with the one, the only series on travel tips. To give you a little bit of background, we originally decided to do travel planning tips for you guys because we got a lot of questions from our travel brats about what do I pack here? How do I research this? Do I need travel insurance or not, etc. So we decided to create some fun categories of travel planning tips for you. Last time we had come out with an episode on how to get around like a local, so that you guys know when you're traveling how to kind of, the ins and outs, the local vibes of every place you go, and just kind of how to look that up, if you're planning a trip. That was our first one. And our second episode on travel tips is going to be, drumroll please, the best way to plan a vacation, step by step. So guys, this is really getting into just the pre-planning of everything, what kind of questions you need to ask yourself, and how to figure out where you want to travel. Because it's funny, a lot of our travel brat, someone I was literally speaking to yesterday was kind of asking me, I'm trying to go to this place, but I honestly don't even know if I want to go to this place because I don't know what I want. I'm like, what do you like to do? And she's like, well, I don't know, because I'm active. I love active travel, but then I might be 8 months pregnant and, I don't know what I'll do then. And how can we cancel it and things like that? So guys, we are here for you. We know that you guys don't do this on the daily. And so we're going to help you plan the best way to have fun on your vacation, step by step.
And the first thing, as Sophia kind of already indicated, is basically deciding your why.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I going on this trip? Do I want rest? Do I want adventure? Am I going for the culture and the food? Or do I want a mix of all of these things? I know for myself, more often than not, when I go on vacation, I want something that is going to be very beachy and very relaxing and very nothing that I have to do. Whereas if I'm going to a place like Europe, oh my gosh, that's like museums and parks and trains and going to all these beautiful locations. So I think it's really about, am I going hard or am I trying to recharge? And this will decide everything, basically the pace of the trip, the location, but also importantly, it will decide your budget, how you want to spend the money that you've allocated for this trip. And you can Google, you can put in prompts to whether you're doing a chat GPT situation or you just Google it, or you can even ask, as Sophia said, she had a friend asking her, you can ask us, your travel brats, what destination is better for an individual trip, a solo trip, or if I'm going with my family, or if I'm going with friends, or if I want a romantic getaway, for example. Or what destination is good for digital nomads? These are good prompts. These are good questions to ask yourself, especially when it comes to adventure versus relaxation. What destination does best for either one? And here's another one. This is a great one, Sophia, because more often than not, if you're choosing a destination like an all-inclusive, where you're just going to go straight from the airport to this place and you want to do nothing, then you're not going to be worried about a rental car. But, for example, if you're going to a European city where it would be nice to go out to the countryside or do something that might involve a rental car, ask, can you visit said destination without renting a car? More often than not, there's going to be public transportation in big cities like Chicago, Boston, New York, things like that. But if you're going to California, you're definitely renting a car.
Right. Like you said, Nat, there are some places you're not going to even need a car. And some people rent cars and realize, oh, now it's just a burden. I don't know where to park. When I find a parking space, it's like $50 to park, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are our biggest tips, guys, for just having a prompt and knowing what you want. Again, you don't necessarily have to do one thing or the other, but it's like Natalie said, you want to do the research. Where's a place, if you do want to do a mix of things, I can do a mix of things. Or if I'm just wanting to do this or just wanting to do this, ChatGPT is also just great. Or ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, you can tell them, here's my life. Like, here's all the things I want to do on my trip. And I want to do some days of active travel, but I also want to relax. But I also like to go see the sites and the history. So I would typically want to do, if I'm having a 10-day trip, I want to do 3 days of that and 4 days of this. You can mix it up as well. Guys, the other big thing would be budget. We always talk about, if you're planning a trip, the pace, the location, and the budget. And budget is so important because I think a lot of people either ignore it and then really get into planning and they're really upset, and they've got to last minute cut things, some things aren't refundable, etc., or they just are literally in debt from a big vacation or a honeymoon or something. And then some people over plan and they get so consumed with budget that they literally can't enjoy themselves, and that's so not what travel is about. We want to help you with that. You want to have a loose range when you're planning your budget, like number of days. You want to have a maximum budget, especially for like flight plus stay plus spending. If you guys don't want to like needy greedy have everything, you can say like roughly our plane tickets we think should cost this based on what we've heard of the cost of plane tickets to go to Hawaii, etc. Or our stay, we want to cost this. We know that's about a 4-star hotel, or if you're doing Airbnb, figure that out. And then you want to figure out how much you want to spend on everything else. And again, if you don't want a restaurant, clothes, you can just say everything else is, we have $2,000 to spend on everything else. That includes restaurants, drinks, shopping, excursions, etc. And then you want to have hard deadlines. So, for weddings, PTO, school breaks. And a pro tip would be to always budget for transportation. We talked about that a little bit. We talked about food, experiences for sure. And then you always want a money buffer. You don't want to say, if I've got $3,000 for this 10-day trip, I'm going to hit it right here. No. Because if you go over, you're going to be upset. So give yourself a couple $100 of a buffer. And those would be our biggest tips for just budgeting.
Yeah. And obviously, you want to plan strategically when it comes to time of year, especially if you're open to a bunch of different options. Because I think in this scenario, we're kind of working under the impression that you don't necessarily have an idea. Like, for example, when I travel, more often than not, I know exactly where I want to go, right? I'm like, I want to go to this place, but if I want to go to, say, Mexico, I'm going to try to pick a time of year that is strategic. If I have that ability to say, okay, my dream place is the Czech Republic, right? I could go at Christmas time because of the Christmas markets, or I could go in the spring because it's really beautiful in the spring. It's all about strategery. But if you're like, okay, I have 1 week, I don't have a place that I want to go necessarily, but it's in March. What's nice in March? Okay. Right. There are some places that are pretty gross in March. There are pretty places that you could go to that would be lovely. So it's like you really want to be strategic if you can. For example, I couldn't be strategic about one of my trips to Belgium because I went for the purpose of being there for my nephew being born.
Right.
And he was born in January. That's like the grossest time of year to travel to a lot of places. And so being in Belgium in January, it was rainy, it was gross. But again, I had a purpose for going there. It was not a vacation. When you're on vacation, you're thinking strategically. Season. Think about season. Think about travel time. Is the travel time going to eat into my vacation if I only have 5 days? I don't want to spend day 1 and day 5 traveling because then I only get a short amount of time. So finding something closer to home maybe. And as well as we talked about, what's the ease of getting around in this situation? If you have limited time, obviously shorter flights are going to be the win.
Yeah. Those are all great tips. It's funny because I just always assume that, like you said, Nat, people know where they're going and why they're going and for what purpose. But a lot of people are just like, hey, I want to do an anniversary trip. Where should I go? Or we can either do it here on our anniversary or here on my husband's birthday. And so, and then they don't know, like you said, when the best time to go is. They also don't know where they should go. They also don't factor in travel time. So you guys really pay attention to those things because honestly, if you go to like Italy and like July or something, it may really alter your entire view of a place. I mean, you may really hate it. And I've heard people, I hated Rome, but then they go back to like Rome or the Amalfi Coast in like end of September, early October, and they're like, oh, I love this place. It's just not full of people and it's not sweltering hot and I'm not dying while I'm trying to walk and shop. And it really is important. And I think it's overlooked a lot.
Hey y'all, it's your travel brat Nat. Did you know that we create blogs to go along with all of our episodes? You can check them out at thetravelbrats.com.
The other thing we would say would be book the big stuff first. So if you're wondering about order of operations, booking the big things first, like flights, accommodation, transportation, that saves a lot of stress. And again, like I just said, in that order. So you're going to want to do flights first, obviously, because you want to get flights as early as possible most of the time. Everybody's going to argue with you on this, but it's always best practice to get your flights as early as possible. Rarely do they get cheaper the closer you get to your travel date. And then accommodations, book those, same thing. Transportation, book that. You don't want to be stressed out about, wait, I decided I was going to get from here to here, but now there's no train for that. So wait, we need a car. Oh my gosh, there's no cars left to rent. You don't want to do that. Car is number 3. And then you can do all the other fun things. I would say number 4 would probably be like excursions. And that may be the last thing you do. You're going to want to stick to that order. You're going to want to book early, like we said, with everything, because a lot of times it's easier to cancel too if you book early. Find the things that are free cancellations too, guys. Again, I told you at the beginning of this episode, I was talking to my friend who may be pregnant when they're on their trip. And I said, well, get travel insurance and get refundable things because you don't want to book a $5,000 trip to the Maldives and then you can't go and you don't get refunded. That's like the worst nightmare of many people. And it's happened to them. So early booking versus last minute travel, this is going to vary depending on what time of the year it is and where you're traveling to. Again, I say it's always better to book early. An example would be when we went to New Zealand, we booked our flights like a year ahead of time. And then everything else we booked closer. But because we were going, like Natalie mentioned, we were going in the highest season for tourists. And again, we didn't really have an option. It was his family's from New Zealand. They invited us to Christmas. And so we were going on Christmas. It's summer there. Everybody seems to travel there. So we just made sure our flights were booked ahead of time. All our excursions were booked. Flights were booked 9 months at least. Excursions were booked 6 months at least. And then there was a restaurant that I tried to book 6 months or, 5 months in advance. Wouldn't let us because sometimes they only let you book, 2 to 3 months ahead. By the time I tried to book it like 2 months ahead, it was already full. So again, guys, these are things to routinely check, or if you're using a travel agent or a travel brat, you need to routinely check these things so that you can make sure you're booking ahead of time. Booking at the right time. Domestic US is aim for 1 to 3 months ahead if you're going anywhere in the US. International, like we said, 2 to 6 months. If you're going a place like New Zealand in high season, maybe 9. But typically for international travel, 2 is the cutoff. 6 is, 5-6 months is a sweet spot. Avoid booking last minute. We talked about that. Unless there's a deal alert, because there are some random deals. But, again, if you're like planning a trip and you need to go here on this specific date, don't do that. If you're like, woohoo, last minute, really fun trip to wherever, then that's fine. They always do the fun deals. You can go on Skyscanner, etc., and check that out. Same goes for hotels. Book as soon as dates are firm, especially for like festivals, weddings, conferences. I can't tell you guys how much we've heard and we've done personally, like the wedding, whatchamacallit, where they do the deals for the guests at the weddings. Yes, the room blocks. Like I've had so many friends miss my room block at my wedding. I've missed room blocks because I was waiting on someone else. Just go ahead and book a room. And again, if you're trying to share it with somebody, go ahead and book it and say, if you decide you're coming, like I've learned that lesson the hard way. Say, if you decide you're coming, then you can just Zelle me half of the room. But I'm going to get this. So I have this at this rate because it's going to double, in a month. Again, major holidays, book early for major holidays, book early for peak season or beach for summer. So those are some tips. We talked about New Zealand, which was hilariously early, but it's so true, especially like Natalie was talking about if it's high season, like all the high season stuff. Again, some people don't have the option. We know some of you guys don't have the option to say, oh, I'm just going to go to Italy in October, when it's nice and when there's nobody and when the weather's better. But like, if you can do it, if you can't, book early because everybody else that's, kids are out of school or that have 4th of July week off, they're going to be traveling too. For last minute stuff, I would say a good example would be we went to New York in August and it wasn't crowded at all. And I was honestly so surprised to play devil's advocate that we booked this trip like 4 days before we went on it. And we were able to get into like every Broadway show we wanted to. None of the like sightseeing towers were full. We did all the things. And I was really surprised that we got like good seats. We even got like the skip the line on some of these things. I was like, I don't want to wait 3 hours to go to the top of this. And we didn't need to use it. So I would say that people probably really need to use that like in the summer and in higher season, during Christmas time at Rockefeller Center. But I would say in some of those lower months, you can save a little money and not have to do some of those things and not have to waste hours as well. So for you last minute travelers, we talked about the deals and we talked about to get those deals, you have to be flexible. It can't be peak season. You're staying in the big city, to rehash that, because there's lots of options in big cities. I would say best tools to kind of figure some of this last minute stuff out, because I know we get a lot of questions like, well, how do we even do that? Like, what do you always look at to figure out what's a great last minute hotel or flights? Hotel Tonight is great for hotels. Booking.com is a great last minute filler site. And then I would say that, like we talked about bigger cities being easier to book things last minute, it's riskier in small towns. And, obviously during busy season. So small towns, high travel season, book early is best practice. And then if you're looking for like a pro booking Travel Brat strategy, book early with free cancellation. We talked about that. But guys, I couldn't reiterate it enough. Again, booking.com, hotels.com, they do that. They allow you to book early, but also without a cancellation fee. And then you're going to want to set the price alerts or check back, because a lot of times these prices drop and you can just rebook for cheaper. People don't know you can do that on airlines, but that's a whole nother Then you can check multiple sites too. A lot of people don't know there are other options. Obviously, Google Hotels is great. Booking.com is great. Hotels.com is great. Airbnb for longer stays is still great. You just got to watch those hidden fees in Airbnb. And you even have to watch those hidden fees in certain sites that people love to use, like Expedia. They'll charge a lot of like resort fees and things where it'll end up being just as much as if you book on the regular hotel site. So it's always almost best to find the deals on here and book on the regular hotel site. A lot of times if you call them and tell them that you found it for this price, this room, you can book through the hotel and then they'll give it to you. And then a lot of times if something happens or you need to talk to them about your booking or anything, they're a lot nicer to you if you booked on the actual hotel site. So watch out for the resort fees. We talked about that. Another thing would be that location is a lot of times more important than price for people. So a slightly pricier hotel in a walkable area can save you a lot of money on transportation. Like say New York, Natalie. A lot of people will book really cheap. And then say if you're like scared to ride the subway or something, like you take taxis, you're totally going to pay your weight in taxis. And so, you could have stayed at a hotel right in Times Square. If you want to, let me know. Or if you're trying to be in Brooklyn, you could have stayed at a hotel right in Brooklyn. You didn't need to stay across the bridge and then come back or, whatever. So it's a great tip because a lot of times we think so cheap and then things add up, little things that you never thought about, like the transportation in the city. And then just again, guys, do not wait too long in hopes that prices drop. This does not happen that much. I have had so many friends stall our travel plans because they're waiting for a price to drop and it never drops. It only gets more expensive. So there have been times where I've been like, that's it, guys. I'm booking my ticket. You guys wait and you can pay $800 instead of $5, but it's already going up. So I wanted $4. I've suffered $100. Now I'm just booking it. So yeah, guys, take all that with a grain of salt, but in give or take, but it's what you want. And those are mostly accurate for pretty much like 90% of the situations.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Hey, Travel Brats. Do you have expertise on a cool travel destination? If so, we would love to have you on our show. For a chance to be a guest on our show, visit thetravelbrats.com and go to the About Us tab and contact us. Or email us at thetravelbrats@gmail.com.
So moving into a little bit more of like actually planning the day and once you've kind of decided where you're going. And I love this idea of planning in theme mode rather than timestamp mode. Right. Because the truth is, I am a timestamp person. I am very much like, I think I can get this much done in this amount of time. So I'm going to set that aside of time and then we're going to go right to this. And I think, for example, when I went to Boston, I had like 10 things that I knew I wanted to do, yet I allowed myself to think in theme and think, okay, I want to do the Freedom Trail. I'm probably not going to be able to do everything on the Freedom Trail. So I'm going to explore the town, right?
Right.
Explore, just walk the trail and see what inspires me and see, oh, that was on my list. Let's definitely do that. Or, oh, this spot wasn't on my list, but I'm intrigued now and I want to explore that. And allowing yourself not to get too maybe like sad if you miss things or like don't hold too tightly to certain things. Now, if there are 5 things that you're like, if I leave this city and I don't do these 5 things, then I won't feel like I fully explored the city, then yeah, of course, make a priority to do those things. But when you think in theme and you think food crawl or you think nature day, then it allows more breadth. I think just more of an allowance for things that might come up that inspire you and not as much pressure to make the day so perfect, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that I love to do, this is my favorite thing to do, and this is like, I will do this till the day I die. I will Google must see spots or must do things in whatever destination. What are the top 10 things that people talk about when they go to St. Louis, right?
Mm.
Okay, the Gateway Arch is definitely going to come up. A Cardinals game is going to come up, right? It's like all these things. And I look at the list and I think, what excites me on
Right.
this list? And then again, depending on how much time I have, I'll pick a few things that I'm like, oh, this would be really cool. And then I will focus the day on making those things happen. I'll look at a map and I will design the day, obviously, to maximize my time. I'm not going to spend all this time in the south part of the city just to go up to the north. It's like, today we're doing the south side of the city.
Mm.
Tomorrow we're doing the park. The next day we're doing this. Again, it also depends, as Sophia said, on ease of traveling within that city. And another thing to look up is overrated versus underrated things to do in the city. This is a huge one because obviously when you put in what are the top 10 things to do, more often than not, it's going to be, I don't want to necessarily say the overrated things, but it is going to be the hottest things, the biggest things that people know of.
Yes. I love that, Nat, the whole Marie Kondo effect thing where you look up stuff and you decide, well, is it going to bring me joy? Is it a 10 out of 10? And then sometimes you don't realize if it's a 10 out of 10 until you go and you experience it. But that's what we're here for, you guys. We're here to tell you, here's what's overrated and underrated. And we love to do the hots and nots. You know that. The last thing I'll say too is with the overrated things to do, don't feel bad if there are influencers or people you see online that say that this is overrated, but you really want to do it. I mean, we did that with that Stardust Diner that everyone joked about it and said it was funny, but we saw a guy go do the video. Stardust Diner guys in New York City, people that want to go on Broadway, they're singing, they're serving you food. The food sucks, but the singing is wonderful. And so it's like, we didn't care if people were like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you did that. That's like on the list of top 10 most touristy things to do in New York City. It's like, for us, that was a 10 out of 10. Like, that was fun. Listen to us if, trust us, but also you may have slightly different opinions on things. So if there's something you really want to try that people are like, not my speed, it may be your speed. Anyway,
Yeah.
carry on.
So that's a great tip. And I think that also can lead us to the next tip about hidden gems. We love hidden gems. And so it's like from the overrated to the underrated, you pick your journey.
Mm.
And if you want a day where you're doing some of the things that are more underrated and that are the hidden gems, have at it. Go for it. Get the local experience. And also, especially you're thinking of cities, as we've talked about New York a couple of times, there are other cities as well where it's good to look up the best areas or neighborhoods to actually stay in
Right.
and what to book in advance.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously experienced with New Zealand that it was a very popular time of year. And so you had to book a lot of things in advance. And yet there are some things that it's like, oh, I can get a ticket of a day of and not worry about it and be totally fine. And that also, for people that like to just wander, that's a better way to do it. But you might miss out on some things that if you go and you try to buy the ticket and they say, oh no, you had to buy this in advance, you just have to accept that. And that's okay. I think travel requires some level of looseness, and that also will help you engage with the city more and help you just relax into it and not feel so stressed. And I think part of that is anchoring yourself with a couple activities per day and allowing that room for rest, spontaneity, and wanderlust, right? Just kind of say, "Oh, that looks cool. Let's go there," right? While still having those few things that you know you definitely want to do, as I've mentioned, and kind of letting those anchor the day.
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about in previous episodes so many times, like Natalie said, leave yourself room for things. Because if you, and I'm guilty of this, so I need to practice what I preach because I will book things so close together and so many. I think part of that, again, is us being travel brats. But then a lot of times you're just exhausted. You're running from one thing to the next. If you see a cute store you can't stop in or a cute coffee shop, you're like, got no time to experience local hidden gem culture. Got to get to the Arc de Triomphe in the next 5 minutes or the Eiffel Tower. I'm eating there. So I think that is so important because that's a really fun part of vacation and travel and exploring. Now, I will say, if you guys are wondering, what can I book last minute? I'm not really sure. There are like some categories. Just a first thing that would come to mind would be something like a museum. If you guys like museums, a lot of times you can just walk in there and buy your tickets. If you don't want to wait in the line, you can book ahead. But I mean book ahead by like the night before. We got our tickets to the Met the night before. So there are things you can book last minute that are like things, events, things to do. So don't get too stressed out if you're like, well, I've been saying all the last 6 months I was going to plan this trip and it's here in 2 months and or here in 1 month or even here in 1 week. What can I do? What can I book in a week? Don't stress. You can still have a good time. There's a lot of free things like national parks and central parks and, all over in each city and things like that. And then there's also things like museums and stuff or movies, things like that. You can get last tickets to shows, even shows sometimes. Again, we talked about Broadway. A lot of times you got to book that a little ahead because it's Broadway and all the good seats are gone. But I mean, again, if it's low season, sometimes that's not the case. So it really just depends. Guys, we're going to talk a little bit about group things to do by location now.
I think the best thing for me in this, and I've already mentioned it, don't zigzag. Don't zigzag. Don't be trying to like go here and there and everywhere because again, that is not maximizing your time. That does require some pre-planning. And if you aren't a pre-planner, then just know you're probably going to have a little bit of time wasted in hopping all over the city. But Google Maps is your best friend. Use Google Maps. And you can save places, you can organize by the area. It'll tell you, like what I love too about being in New York is you Google map it and it'll tell you exactly what train, exactly what bus, exactly everything. And it's not just New York. I mean, that's everywhere, no matter where you are. I remember in Brussels, that being super helpful because I was in a foreign country. And so I would be like, oh, I need to get on the 6 or I need to get on the this or I need to get on the that. And so, again, I mentioned this kind of earlier when we were talking specifically about St. Louis, but grouping things by location, really just that's part of the strategy in saving yourself time and saving yourself worry.
Yes, guys. You do not want to be not grouping things by location and zigging and zagging all around. Again, a quick note on AI. If you try to map your routes out, like with ChatGPT and stuff, again, it doesn't always work. It'll send you all over the place. It won't be accurate. So guys, Google Maps, plug it in, do it yourself. It doesn't take that long and you can figure out your full route for the day. Now, I want to talk a little bit about just planning rest because we've talked about this in previous episodes. It's really hard to enjoy your vacation when you don't have enough rest. And travel can really be a real burnout. I mean, a lot of times I'll plan to, as soon as I land in a place, I'm ready to go do stuff. But again, if I'm like not on the schedule yet, or I didn't sleep on the plane, again, those are things to plan. Like, hey, I got to sleep on the plane because once we get there, I'm doing stuff because it's morning or, plan it out where like I remember again, when we went to New Zealand, we planned to get there at 8 p.m. We ate a late dinner and we just passed out at like 10. We were up at 7 a.m. the next morning. Boom. We're literally on the New Zealand country schedule. We're ready to go. So you got to plan these things, guys. Build in slow mornings, especially when you first get there. You don't want to be dragged out of bed. Schedule downtime after travel days. You don't want a full day of travel. If this is your thing, it's your thing. But like when we were in New York, we would plan a full day. We'd run home, change, and then run to a show and like eat pizza on the way home. You don't have to do that every night. Give yourself at least a few rest nights, even if you don't want to do that every night. Don't book early tours after late nights. A lot of times people make that mistake and they just don't want to get out of bed. And it's really hard to enjoy your morning tour when you're like sleeping on the bus or trying not to fall asleep during the show or whatever.
So I made the mistake of doing this by planning a trip that my brother and I had. He came down to Florida to visit me and I planned a night out in Miami clubbing.
Uh-huh.
And then the next morning planned Everglades airboat tour.
Oh.
Now, granted, an airboat is not like a regular boat. Like there was no nausea that we were experiencing at all because it just floats. It's so glidey. But we both stayed out really late. We had a great time. We met up with one of our cousins who lives in Miami. I mean, he took us out. I wasn't thinking we were going to have this much of a fun night. And we had so much fun. But then the next morning, we both woke up and we were like, oh.
Someone who's a veteran of clubbing in Miami is different from a lot of clubbing and bars. Like when Natalie says they were up late, like the party in Miami usually pre-games and hangouts at people's homes before you go out is like 12 o'clock. 10 to 12 o'clock, you go out at like 2 in the morning. Nobody comes to the club before 2 in the morning. So you're celebrating the sunrise, okay, everybody? So morning activities are really rough. Again, Natalie, I taught tennis in Miami for a whole summer. We went clubbing. We'd go beach tennis. We would literally be napping on the couch in the locker room between lessons because we'd be so exhausted. I chugged not Miami Coke. I chugged Coca-Cola, guys. Coffee stopped working for me. And so I would chug Cokes, literally Cokes from the vending machine right before a lesson. I'd be like, let's go, ladies. You literally have no sleep. That's a great example, Natalie. I love that you brought that up.
Thankfully, I was able to move our Everglades tour a little bit later so that we were like the last tour that went out for the day, and it ended up being lovely. But it was definitely one of those things where I was like, oh, I really did not think this through. Like for me, the travel brat thing of just like, go, go, go. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's going to be great.
Dreaming of a luxury European escape, but not the stress that comes with planning it? Because true luxury isn't about excess. It's about ease. That's where Tenon Tours comes in. They craft bespoke European journeys designed entirely around you, with every detail thoughtfully handled by experts who know each destination inside and out. These fully customized itineraries are tailored to your pace, your passions, and your travel style. No cookie-cutter trips, no planning overwhelm, just a seamless experience built around your dream journey. Want to sip wine in Tuscany? Wander through hidden villages in Ireland? Or explore iconic cities without feeling like a tourist? They handle everything, so you don't have to. No stress, no guesswork, just an unforgettable trip. The result? A deeply personal, effortless experience where you can focus on what truly matters: discovery, connection, and meaningful moments. Because luxury isn't just where you go, it's how you experience it. Truly customized, truly personal, profoundly unforgettable. Visit tenontours.com and include the code TravelBrat300. That's all capital TravelBrat 300 to your initial trip request, or provide it when you first connect with your travel designer. Start planning your dream European getaway today and thank us later.
Anyway, all the fun stuff aside, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the, I would say, boring stuff. I mean, it's only boring because it's not the exciting, we're traveling and doing the things. It's all the stuff that involves getting things done on a checklist so that you can just enjoy your trip. And this, of course, is very important if you are traveling abroad. If you're traveling within the US, then you pretty much don't have to think of almost any of the stuff that I'm about to say. But for the most part, this is going to be lots of international travel. Obviously, you have to have a passport and you may have to get a visa. So there are considerations about visas. You need to check what vaccines you need to be updated on. Possible travel insurance if you're going to need that while you're gone. Obviously, a lot of times when you're traveling overseas, your phone plan, you're not going to be using data. So as we talked about, Google Maps, using that in any country, but you might have to do it offline and figure out what maps do I need before I go out today, because I don't want to spend the $20 that my Verizon plan is going to make me spend to have data today. All sorts of documents you might need. Oh, the biggest one for me is notifying your bank. Well, I don't want to say the biggest one for me because obviously all of these are quite big, but if you don't notify your bank, then your whole entire card could get shut down. And that is a massive, massive inconvenience.
Yes.
So this is something that is really important, getting all of these things done and then just forgetting about it. Because once you have all the paperwork done, guys, this is a big one for me right now. I mean, not right now. I have spent the last month gathering all these papers for my contract. And because I'm going to so many different countries, all of the different vaccines and visas and travel insurances, so many different things involved. And I just had to hone in, locking into that. Obviously, what I'm doing is a massive amount of time compared to the average person traveling. But what we're about to dive into has been my world for the last month.
Oh, I know. I feel like every time I've texted you, you've been like filling out some paperwork. How was your day? Oh, good. Just filling out some more paperwork. And seriously, guys, if you do this stuff, then you can really forget about it. Like, it's going to be so not stressful. Another good example, I have not had to deal with anything remotely close to what Natalie has had to deal with paperwork, but I can think off the top of my head two things that are pretty hilarious. One with visas. When we were going to New Zealand, like my husband was in school, I'm working. I'm so glad that his mom did a lot of the extra research for that because I'm like, okay, I need my travel visa. And Mike, you need your travel visa. And she said, no. You know what? This was months later, it was like a couple months before. She's like, actually, Mike does not need a travel visa. He's a citizen. And so he needs to renew his passport. And I was like, oh, we should definitely do that. If he didn't renew his passport, they won't let you in the country. So again, guys, that's stuff to check with. You'd think that's a duh thing, but like he doesn't use his New Zealand passport. He doesn't like, hi, I'm also a New Zealand citizen. He doesn't ever think of that. And so it was something you don't think of, make sure if you're born in a country or a lot of countries, if both your parents are from there, you have citizenship there. So make sure you renew those passports. Again, with the visas, I couldn't believe this. With just the travel visas, there were so many people. So we flew from Florida to LA and then from LA to Papiti and then from Papiti to New Zealand. In LA, boarding the plane, there were so many people they wouldn't let board because they didn't have travel visas. And they're like last minute trying to with the airport Wi-Fi, do the travel visa thing and get it. And they're like, final boarding call. I was like, oh my gosh, this is giving me so much anxiety. These people are not going to get on their flight to New Zealand. That is literally a nightmare. So again, guys, those are so important. And with the vaccines, we'll talk about those in a minute. But my funny story with the vaccine is I'm getting ready to go to Bolivia. And I just thought, I'll just pop in there and see what I need. I don't know if I even need anything because nothing's really required. I ended up getting a Hep A, a Hep B. I was behind for over a decade on those. I got my malaria pills. I got my yellow fever shot. I was ready to go. There was one I'm forgetting about, but I was like, do I need this one? She's like, well, it's the one for the upset stomach and the blah, 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 blah. I'm forgetting the name. But I was like, oh, yeah. Just give me that one too. I was like, I don't want to be throwing up from both ends on this vacation. I was like, I don't care. Here's my risk. Give it all to me. I'm going in protected. So guys, yeah, it's really important. Again, travel clinics do this. We'll talk about that when we get to vaccines. But visa rules kind of depend on what passport you hold, not where you live. And you need to ask yourself, what country issued my passport? Is it valid for at least 6 months after my return? A lot of people do not think about that. Sometimes if it's going to expire in a few months, they don't let you take the trip and you don't know that until you get to the airport. So check these things, guys. And again, an example, US passport, it has very different access than a Canadian, a UK, an Australian. Again, these passports have different levels of access for, more important people. Not really, but you get the vibe, you get the point. Check the official sources. Don't go on the first thing that pops up on Google that's always trying to sell you something. Destination countries, embassy, or consulate websites are the best place to look for these things. You're just going to basically go to the consulate website of this country. You're going to search visa requirements for blank, Bolivia, Panama, Costa Rica. Just kidding. But yes, all those places, you're just going to punch it in and then you're going to use a trusted visa checker. Quick and easy. Here's some trusted visa checkers. There's a lot. IATA, Travel Center, Airline Status Rules, Sherpa, Visa HQ, iVisa. Again, guys, in our blog, we've listed all this so that if you don't understand what the heck I'm saying, you can go check it out. You're going to just enter passport country, destination, purpose. Is it for tourism, business, etc.? The length of the stay, and it'll tell you whether a visa is not needed, whether a visa is required in advance, whether you need an e-visa, whether you can get an e-visa, and then whether you need the visa on arrival. And if a visa is required, it'll usually be one of these. E-visa, which again, we talked about applying online, super easy. Visa on arrival, you can get that at the airport, still easy. Embassy visa, you have to apply ahead of time. This is the slowest. This is obviously a little harder. Not a lot of countries that a lot of tourists go for vacation require that. But again, if you're more of the adventurous traveler, then you need to check these things. Check your length of stay. Even visa-free countries have limits on the amount of time you can stay. So, sometimes it's 90 days in any 180-day period. For like the UK or Japan and many other countries, it's usually like 30 to 90 days. If you stay over 90 days, you're in trouble. So you need to check that. And then overstaying, what happens if you do overstay? If you're like, screw it, I'm going to stay in Japan for 3 years. You can be fined a large amount of money, which is never fun. You can be banned from Japan or any said country. And then future visas, if you try to come back, obviously. If you're banned, you're never coming back. But if there's a country that you get a fine for, it's going to be hard to get back with a visa and you're going to have issues because you broke the rules. You break the rules. You pay the consequences. Some countries also require proof of onward travel, proof of funds, travel insurance, which again, guys, travel insurance, good stuff. Okay. Ben Camille with Travel Defend. We have interviewed him. It's a great episode. He gives us and all our listeners, really, really easy and good travel insurance, not expensive, perfect for like our lifestyle. Again, I know you guys, people listening, are mostly our ages. And so again, he's going to find really easy travel insurance for you guys, for your age and for, the cost of your trip and everything. So it's not always this big, scary thing that costs a lot of money. That's all I'll say about travel insurance. If you want to dive more into it, go listen to the episodes with Ben Camille and Travel Defend. We talked about blank passport pages. So some countries also require blank passport pages, yellow fever certificate. We talked about this. I have to have this for Bolivia. Again, the doctor said I have to have it. I think they've revoked it now. But again, I think it's better to be safe than sorry because it was recently revoked, like a couple months ago. So I'm bringing it anyway. It's like they call it a yellow card. And a lot of times, if a country still requires it, they'll look at it when you enter the country. So even without a visa, airlines can deny boarding if you don't meet entry rules. So guys, so important. So many people just don't do these things because they assume that it's like popping down to Mexico or popping up to Canada. And if you're really going out of the United States, or if you're a foreigner listening, you just really have to check these things and also keep up with them because sometimes things change. So say I went to Bolivia 5 years ago. If I didn't check now, I would see that they're more lenient on the policy. So I don't necessarily have to get it. If I don't have time, I don't freak out. But again, still safe than sorry. But always check before a trip about all these things and ahead of time. You do not want to be trying to schedule a doctor's appointment like a week ahead of your trip. They may not be able to get you in or do anything like that. So just be mindful of those things.
So yeah, Sophia pretty much covered all of the vaccine related questions that you guys might have. But for the most part, it's the same thing. Just check to see what country requires what vaccinations. And also check with your doctor to see, hey, am I up to date on all these things? Like you were saying, Hep A, Hep B, all the basic stuff. But yellow fever is definitely a big one that a lot of countries are requiring at the moment. Some, as you said, have loosened up on requiring that. 10 years ago, yellow fever was like, you couldn't go anywhere without getting a yellow fever shot. Now they're just like, did you get a yellow fever at some point in your life? Cool. And even if not, some countries are very lax about that. But for the most part, a lot of countries will require what's called the ICVP. Soph mentioned already the yellow card, and that's the International Certificate of Vaccination. And again, it's just good to be covered, literally. Just make sure that you have all of your boxes checked, and vaccines are one of those that they care about because they don't want you bringing in stuff, and they obviously don't want you contracting something, dying, or carrying it to another country that doesn't have specifically something like yellow fever, which is like, it's the hot one. So a lot of countries will require, if you're arriving from or transitioning through a yellow fever risk country, they will also require that. So again, it doesn't just matter where your final destination is. It can often also matter where you're going through. And just cover your bases. So yeah, Soph, what's the golden rule?
Oh, the golden rule. Guys, we're going to close this amazing episode with the golden rule. Okay. Under plan your days. Over prepare your logistics, guys. This is the Travel Brat planning golden rule. That's how trips feel effortless instead of exhausting. And if you need help, ask your brats, Sophie Nat. We are always here for you guys. You know our email, you know our phone numbers and our social securities. Just kidding. You only know our email, thetravelbrats@gmail.com. Don't forget the. That's very special. Everybody forgets the. Okay. I love it personally. Email us, guys, if you have any questions. Obviously, if you didn't know as well, you can check out our blogs, our guides, travelbrats.com, thetravelbrats.com. Okay. And we have all of our information on here. It's so fun to just go click and we'll link everything. We'll link the sites that you have to go to get these visas and these vaccinations and the embassy information. And we also have the information on places that you can book great hotels and great flights. We're here for you guys. We want you guys to have a no regrets trip. And lastly, Natalie's going to give you a few tips to just roll with.
Yeah. So some extra ideas. Food tours at night for dinner. That's one that I know Soph has experienced a number of times and always really loved. And give yourself time to get to places in case you have trouble finding them. That's a huge one as well. And I would also say that goes for public transportation, because if you know your transportation, that's number one. You got to know your transportation, but also that will add time more often than not, because sometimes trains are late or sometimes they just don't show up. So being very careful about that.
Oh, and as an example, in Italy, when we were there, the taxi stops are not everywhere. And this drove me crazy because I was like, taxi. And they were like, they kept going, and shaking their finger at me. And I was like, come on. And just, they can't. They literally can't. They can drop you off on the side of the street, but they have to pick you up at the locations. And so it becomes easiest to take a taxi from the hotel, honestly, if you're going far, to the general area and then wander around that general area on foot. And then you have to go to the taxi stop to return. The other thing would be early for trains, because sometimes they come early if you're doing trains instead of taxis. What happened to you there?
It's so funny because it's literally always when it comes to trains, plan to be early, but no, as I said 2 seconds ago, they might not show up or they might be late. It's so inconsistent, which I love public transportation. And I say it's so inconsistent. Obviously, the goal of public transportation is to be consistent. And more often than not, you aren't running into trouble. But I've had experiences, as we shared in the last travel tips episode, where I had trains that didn't show up and it was a whole situation.
Yeah, this has been great, you guys. And it's funny because that literally started our entire Travel Brat series, is you being like, we just need to tell them about the ins and outs of travel. So guys, it's been great. Thank you for joining us today on this lovely Travel Brat Tuesday. And we will catch you on the next one.
Are you ready to travel with purpose? If you've been wanting a trip that goes beyond sightseeing, one where you can truly make an impact while exploring incredible destinations, this is your sign. We've partnered with GlobalWare to help you experience a different kind of travel. 1-week service adventures in places like Peru, Costa Rica, Cambodia, and more. You'll spend part of your trip assisting and connecting with local communities while also discovering the culture, food, and beauty of each destination. No special skills needed, just an open mind and willingness to show up and immerse yourself. If this sounds like your kind of adventure, we'd love to help you get started. Email us at thetravelbrats@gmail.com with the subject line Globe Aware Trip, and we'll send you a code for $100 off your first GlobalWare booking. Let's travel differently. More meaning, more connection, and more impact.
Hey, it's your Travel Brat Nat. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred listening platform. We also love reviews, so feel free to leave us a Google review or a review wherever you listen.